Before we jump into the story, make sure to share and subscribe to our YouTube channel and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. I never imagined that one single night could change everything, that a single evening with my brothers would leave such a profound mark on me. A mark that would stay with me for the rest of my life. Something happened that night. Something I've never been able to shake off, something so deeply unsettling that I've kept it to myself until now, when I felt like I had no choice but to share it. I know it's hard to explain, but I need to speak the truth. Beck, AI, maybe someone else has gone through something like this, or maybe no one has. Either way, it's something I'll never forget, something that will haunt me for as long as I live. What I'm about to tell you isn't easy. It's raw, it's painful, and it's something I'm still trying to understand. Growing up, my parents were always busy, caught up. In their work, they did their best to provide for us. But their demanding jobs meant they weren't around as much as we would have liked. As a result, my brothers and I had to grow up quickly. We had to learn how to take care of ourselves and to have a simple, easy weekend together, a chance to unwind, to enjoy being at home. None of us saw coming. It's hard to explain exactly when it happened, but I felt it. The sudden shift in the air, the tension that began to build what was supposed to be fun, suddenly felt different, and before we knew it, we were all caught in something we weren't ready for. What started as a simple game would leave us with scars we weren't prepared to bear, and it would change everything. But then the tone of the game began to shift. What had started as a playful diversion began to feel different. The questions took on a more personal edge, probing deeper into territory that was never meant to be explored. It wasn't long before John, always the one to push boundaries and test limits, dared James to reveal his biggest secret. James smirked at first, that knowing grin that suggested he was holding something back, something we didn't yet understand. He leaned back in his chair, his eyes narrowing as he sized us up. It was clear that something had changed, something unspoken hanging in the air. "Only if you're ready for things to get real," James said, his voice lowering deeper than before, almost daring us to accept the challenge. The smirk was still there, but it was accompanied by a new edge. Something unsettling, a tension that seemed to radiate from him. I could feel it creeping into my bones, a warning or perhaps a promise that things were about to shift in ways we couldn't predict, and then it hit me. The atmosphere in the room had completely transformed. The weight of the moment settled over us, thick and suffocating. What had once been a carefree, lighthearted game now felt dangerous, like a thin veneer of fun had cracked open to reveal something much darker beneath. We weren't just playing anymore. We weren't just fooling around. This was no longer a game you'd play with your family. This was something else entirely, something that felt both too intimate and too risky. John, ever the one to remain unshaken, didn't flinch, but I could see it in his eyes. He felt it too. There was a brief, pregnant pause, a moment where nothing seemed to move, where the air itself held its breath. I could feel both brothers locked in some kind of silent exchange. Their eyes locked in an unspoken challenge, waiting for something to break, for someone to blink. And then James turned to me, his eyes narrowing with an intensity one wasn't used to. "Your turn." He said, his tone almost daring, the words hanging between us like a challenge. Truth or dare? It was my turn. And suddenly that question felt heavier than I could have imagined. The weight of it pressed down on me, and my heart pounded in my chest. I wanted to take the easy way out, to choose truth and retreat into the safety of answering questions, to back out of whatever this had become. But something held me there, something in the way they both watched me, their eyes fixed on me with an almost predatory focus. The pressure of the moment wrapped around me like a vice, and before I even realized what I was doing, I said, "Dare." I didn't fully grasp what I had just agreed to, but in the pit of my stomach, I knew something was about to change. That choice, that simple word, would be the point of no return. I could feel it in my bones, but I had no idea just how much it would alter everything in ways I couldn't yet comprehend. James didn't waste any time. "I dare you," he said, his voice low and deliberate, to sit closer to JN. At first I thought it was a joke, just another silly challenge in the name of the game, but when I looked at their faces, when I saw how serious they were, how the lines of their expressions had tightened. The playful edge that had once been there was gone. I felt my stomach drop, a cold chill crawling up my spine. There was no laughter, no teasing, no lightheartedness left, just their eyes, intense, unblinking, like they were waiting for me to make a move. I hesitated, hoping to laugh off to pretend. This was just part of the game, but the tension in the room was too thick to ignore. I could feel the weight of their gazes pressing down on me, suffocating me in the silence that had taken over. If you're still tuned to this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 1 in the comments to let me know you're still with me. Slowly, my body moved almost on its own, as if I were caught in some invisible current I couldn't escape. I scooted closer to John, each inch of movement sending a jolt of discomfort through my body. My heart pounded louder in my chest, but I couldn't stop. I couldn't escape the feeling that something was wrong. This wasn't just part of the game anymore. It was something else I told myself. It was just a dare that this was still just a silly game. But as I settled beside him, everything in me screamed that I was lying to myself. John didn't pull away instead. He wrapped his arm around me, his grip tight and deliberate, like it was nothing. Like it was perfectly normal for us to be like this. The warmth of his body against mine felt suffocating, too close, too intimate. It wasn't a sibling hug anymore. It was something else, something wrong. His fingers pressed firmly against my shoulder, the touch lingering longer than it should, like he was marking his territory. I could feel my breath hitch in my throat, my body frozen, unable to pull away. I wanted to scream, to shove him off, to run and never look back, but my body betrayed me. My muscles refused to listen to the panic rising within me in that moment. Everything changed: the game, the evening. The house, all of it felt warped, twisted into something I couldn't undo. And there I was, trapped between them, unable to make sense of what was happening or why it felt like my world had just been ripped open. John's arm remained firmly around my shoulders, and I could feel his gaze on me. His eyes never leaving my face, as if he were studying my every reaction. The intensity of his attention was overwhelming, and my stomach churned with an uncomfortable knot I could smell as cologne, sharp, familiar, the kind that usually comforted me and made me feel safe. But now that same scent twisted in my saint like something foul, something that no longer brought me peace, but instead a deep unease. I wanted to pull away, to break free from the weight of his touch, but the harder I tried, the more it felt like I was being drawn into an invisible force, as if I were trapped in a web I couldn't escape, from a web I had no control over. Just when I thought I couldn't endure it any longer, I felt James shift beside me. He was close now, too close. His presence seemed depressing on me from all sides, and before I could react, he leaned in his lips near my ear. He whispered something to me. His words barely audible, but there was an unmistakable urgency in his voice. The words felt like they were meant just for me, as if they were designed to keep me anchored in this unbearable moment. I didn't understand them, but they felt like they were pushing me further, pulling me deeper into something that seemed beyond my control. I wasn't sure if it was just my imagination, but the look in his eyes wasn't the same as usual. His gaze was darker, more intense, and filled with something that made my skin crawl, yet at the same time. It stirred something deep inside me, a knot in my stomach and nervous flutter in my chest. It felt as though he was waiting for me to respond, to give him a sign, to offer some kind of permission to continue to do whatever it was that he wanted. The air around us had changed completely. It was thick sand OCA, and I could barely breathe. But even worse, I felt trapped. There was no escape. No way to get away from the overwhelming pressure. John's arm was still holding me tight and possessive, as if he wouldn't let go, and James was still right beside me, his eyes fixed on me with an intensity that made my pulse race. I wanted to scream, to demand they stop, to tell them that this was wrong, but I couldn't. My body was frozen, paralyzed with fear, and no matter how much I wanted to make a sound, I couldn't. No words would come. James leaned even closer, his breath hot against my skin as his lips brushed my ear. His whisper sent a shiver through me, his voice low, almost too soft to hear, but the words pierced me like a jolt of electricity. "Do you trust me?" This question lingered in the air, and for a moment time seemed to stand still. My body tensed in reaction. the intensity of his proximity making my heart beat faster, my breath coming in shallow gasps before I could even process what he meant, before I could decide how to respond. I felt John's hand gently turn my face toward him. He didn't speak a word. His eyes said everything, and before I could protest, he kissed me. At first, it was a soft kiss, a tentative brush of his lips against mine, as if he was gauging my reaction, testing the waters. But quickly, it became more. His kiss deepened, becoming more forceful, more urgent, as if he couldn't hold back anymore. My mind screamed for me to stop, to push him away, to break free. But my body betrayed me. I couldn't move, couldn't find the strength to pull back. His lips were warm and demanding, his hands firm on my skin, and I felt myself being drawn further into the moment, unable to stop myself before I could even think about breaking free. James's lips were on mine too. His kiss was different, harder, more insistent. It was as if he was claiming me, taking control of the moment, and I had no time to react. I didn't even have a chance to pull away before his kiss deepened, leaving me no space to breathe, no chance to regain control. I was drowning in a sea of confusion, my mind a haze trying to make sense of what was happening, but unable to process it. I was paralyzed by the shock of it all, too overwhelmed by the fear to think clearly. As soon as James kissed me, my entire world seemed to come to a halt, as if time itself had frozen, leaving me suspended in a moment. I couldn't escape from a moment that felt like it might last forever. His lips were hard against mine, and I couldn't breathe. Every instinct in me screamed to pull away, but my body refused to listen. My limbs were frozen in place, unable to move, while my heart pounded in my chest, hammering against my ribs for a fleeting moment. It felt as if time had stopped, like everything around me had disappeared, leaving only the three of us in a suffocating, oppressive silence. I felt trapped not just by the situation, but by my own body, which seemed to have turned against me. I wanted to scream, to shout at them to stop, to make them understand how wrong this was, but the words wouldn't come. My body had turned to stone, completely unresponsive to my desperate thoughts. James's kiss was far from gentle. It wasn't the soft, affectionate kind of kiss I had expected from someone who had once been like a brother to me. Instead, it was demanding and possessive, like he was claiming something that didn't belong to him. He pulled me closer, his hands moving with an urgent, almost frantic need. His fingers slid to the back of my neck. His grip tightening as he tilted my head back, forcing me to surrender to the kiss. There was nothing tender about it, nothing caring if it felt like he was taking something from me, something precious that I couldn't get back. It was a raw, desperate kind of kiss, one that made my skin crawl and my pulse race with a mix of fear and confusion. I could feel John's presence behind me, his hand pressing firmly against my back. His touch was slow but deliberate, as though he was making sure I couldn't escape, that I would remain exactly where they wanted me. I wanted to fight it. I wanted to scream, to push them away, to somehow break free from their grasp, but my body remained paralyzed, unable to make a single move. My mind screamed in panic, but my body was caught in some strange limbo, unable to respond to my distress. The confusion was overwhelming, and I couldn't make sense of it all. I felt numb, as though everything was happening in a haze with my thoughts. Clouded by fear and disbelief, James's hand slid lower, his fingers resting on my waist, and for a moment I felt as if I couldn't even feel it. My body was numb, overwhelmed by the weight of the situation, and all I could do was sit there lost in a swirl of emotions. I couldn't understand how this was happening, how the people I had trusted my whole life, the ones who had always been there for me, could suddenly feel like strangers. It was as if something inside them had shifted, like a dark force had taken hold, unraveling everything. I thought I knew. The very foundation of my reality felt like it was crumbling beneath me, and I couldn't stop it. If you're still tuned into this video and find the story inspiring, drop a 2 in the comments to let me know you're still with me when I finally broke the kiss, gasping for air. I looked at them, my eyes wide with terror. My mind raised with 1,000 questions, none of which had any answers, but neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. The silence between us was deafening, and in it, I could feel the weight of what they had done, what they were continuing to do. James didn't look at me with the same tenderness he once had, the way a brother might look at his sister now. His eyes were filled with hunger, a dangerous, unsettling hunger that made my skin crawl and my heart race with dread. The warmth of his gaze was suffocating, and I felt exposed, vulnerable, like he could see right through me. John shifted closer, his breath warm against my ear, and his voice was low, almost mocking, as he whispered, "This is what you wanted, isn't it?" The words hit me like a slap, and my stomach twisted with disgust, but at the same time, there was a strange, insidious part of me that wondered, was he right? Had I somehow invited this? Had I done something to make them think this was okay? The guilt began to creep in, settling in my chest like a heavy weight, suffocating me even more than the fear. I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe somehow this was my fault, that I had somehow allowed this to happen, but the shame only made me feel smaller, more powerless, despite everything. Despite how wrong this all felt, I still couldn't make myself stop it. I still couldn't find the strength to push them away. I was paralyzed, lost in a sea of confusion, unable to break free from the grip they had on me emotionally, physically, and mentally. I wanted to leave. I wanted to run out of that room, never look back, never face them again. But my body refused to move. I was paralyzed, caught in a web of confusion, shame, and something darker, something I couldn't yet understand but could feel beginning to take hold of me. It was like I was trapped in a nightmare, and no matter how desperately I wished to wake up, I couldn't. I looked at James, my brother, the one who had always been my protector, the one who had always made me feel safe in a world that could be so cruel, but now I didn't recognize him. I didn't recognize myself. I didn't know who we were anymore, who we had become in that moment. James's hand slid along my side, his touch sending a shock of electricity through me. But instead of feeling warmth, all I felt was a surge of dread. I wanted to cry, to scream, to do anything to make it stop, but nothing came out. My body remained frozen, incapable of movement, stuck in that moment that felt like it was suffocating me from every direction. John, still sitting beside me, leaned in once more, brushing his lips against my ear in a way that made my skin crawl. "You don't have to say anything," he whispered, his voice smooth, almost coaxing. "We can just let this happen." Before I could even react, before I could process his words, James kissed me again. This time, it was harder, more urgent, his lips pressed against mine with a force that left me real feeling. He pushed me back into the couch, his hands roaming over my body. The world around me seemed to blur, and for the first time I felt completely overwhelmed, as though everything was happening too fast. Too much. I could feel their hands on me, no longer playful, no longer the touch of people I once trusted. Now it was possessive, like they were taking something from me that I couldn't ever get back. James's kiss deepened, more intense this time. His hands moved under my shirt, his fingers skimming across my skin, sending shivers of panic through me. I wanted to stop him, to push them away with every ounce of strength I had, but I couldn't. My fear had rendered me motionless. I felt like I wasn't even in my own body anymore, like it had betrayed me. Jean was right there beside me, his lips trailing down my neck, his hands sliding up my leg with a quiet persistence that made my stomach twist with terror. I couldn't process what was happening. It felt like I was outside of myself, watching everything unfold, but unable to stop it, unable to move, unable to speak. I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know how to make them stop. The more they kissed me, the more the world around me seemed to fall apart. Piece by piece, my mind screamed at me, screamed for it to end, for everything to stop, but my body refused to listen. I couldn't even form the words I wanted to tell them to stop, to make them understand how wrong this was. But my voice was lost in a fog of confusion and fear. My mind was screaming, but my body was silent. Frozen when it was over, no one spoke. There was only a heavy silence that filled the room, the weight of what had just happened hanging in the air like a suffocating cloud. We all just sat there, unable to move, unable to process. James was the first to break the silence, his voice cold and distant. "We don't talk about this ever." He said his words flat as though the entire event had never happened. JN just nodded, and the understanding between them was clear. We all knew that things had changed. The bond we once had. The bond that tied us together as siblings was shattered, replaced by guilt, by something darker, something that had altered us all for weeks. We avoided each other. Family dinners, once full of laughter and conversation, became unbearable. The silence between us was thick and oppressive. Every time James or John looked at me, I felt a wave of guilt wash over me, suffocating and crushing. It was like I was being suffocated by something I couldn't name, and every glance they gave me only added to the weight. I wanted to say something, to tell someone, to make them understand. But how could I? Who could I trust with something so horrible, something so unexplainable? How could I explained the unexplainable? How could I explain what had happened without being torn apart in the process? The burden of it all was too much to carry alone. But I didn't know who to turn to, or if anyone would believe me. We couldn't talk about it, but it consumed every thought. Each glance between us, each moment of silence was a painful reminder of the line we had crossed, of the innocence we had lost. It was there in their eyes, something once familiar, but now so distant, so cold. I could see it in the way they looked at me, like we were all trapped in this unspoken truth that neither of us dared to confront. I couldn't escape it. It was like living in a house filled with ghosts, their presence haunting every corner, their silence louder than any words we could ever say. The silence between us was deafening, and the worst part was that I was completely alone with my thoughts. There was no one I could turn to, no one who would understand the weight of what had happened, no one who could share the burden with me. It felt as though we were all pretending nothing had changed, pretending as if nothing had happened, but we all knew we could feel it, and that was the worst part. We knew. There was no going back, no way to undo what we had done, no way to repair the damage we had caused. Years have passed since that night, but it still haunts me. The memories come rushing back, often without warning, flooding my mind with the same confusion, guilt, pain I felt back then. I lie awake at night, replaying the moments over and over in my mind, asking myself over and over again, why didn't I stop it? Why did I let it happen? Why didn't I say something, do something, anything to make it stop? The questions linger unanswered, and I know they always will, but what I've come to realize is that healing isn't something that happens overnight. It's not as simple as waking up one day and feeling free from the pain. It's been a long, slow, and painful journey, one that still feels like it's stretching on with no end in sight some days. The weight of it still presses down on me, heavy and suffocating, but over time I've learned to carry it little by little, and it doesn't define me anymore. Therapy has been one of the things that's helped me find clarity. It's helped me see that the shame I carried for so long doesn't make me who I am. It doesn't define my worth. It's simply a part of my story, a part of my healing journey. It's not easy, and there are still days when I feel like I'm taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but it's happening slowly, but surely. I'm finding my way out of that darkness, learning how to breathe again, learning how to move forward. And while I know I can never forget, I am learning how to live with it, how to not let it consume me. As we come to the end of this video, I want you to reflect on everything we've discussed so far. What has this journey through the complex ideas of emotions, healing, and self-discovery taught you? Have you found something that resonates with your own experiences? I'd love to hear from you. What is one thing you've learned today that you will bring into your life and practice moving forward? Please take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments below this video. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a comment, give us a thumbs up, and share with others who might benefit from this message. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Your support means everything.